If humans lived to be 500 years old, what hobbies would you get around to getting good at? Gardening would be very fun. It wouldn't be intimidating to start growing trees. Don't be intimidated by growing a tree. The world needs more trees. I'm not saying plant an oak tree 3 feet from your house, that's going to be a headache in 30 years, but plant a tree. Plant 20 more than you want, and chop the ones you don't want down, and keep the best one. No need to be intimidated. It's amazing to watch a tree grow, and most trees don't need 500 years. Most trees' lifespans are only 100 to 200 years and many are shorter. Bonsai. There should be a bonsai trading subreddit. I'm already good at nothing but 500 years and I can perfect it. What's the difference between being good at doing nothing and being perfect at doing nothing? All I hear is someone saying, John parred at the age of 110, and someone replying, he was so young. This was kinda my train of thought. If we could live to be 500 years old, I'd imagine it'd be a much rarer feat than someone nowadays living to be 100, considering how easily damaged and accident prone we are. For having big brains, we really are a fantastically flawed machine. This might be one of the few serious answers, but cooking. Even if some don't consider it a hobby, I would learn recipes from all around the world so when someone is in the mood for something I can make the best possible version of that thing. When you get good at cooking, you don't just learn recipes. Over time, you adapt them and change them subtly to your own tastes. Eventually they become your own, and after 500 years, my god, you'd make some mouths water from the smell of your kitchen. I don't know, to be honest, but dating would be really weird. Met this gal last weekend. She's 412 years old. Oh dude, that's just wrong. You're only 112. How can you be with a chick that's 300 years older than you? You know the rule, dude. Half your age plus 50. Learning language isn't just expanding general knowledge. Also seeing more of the world. We'd get really good at practicing safe sex for the sole sake of avoiding reproduction. As a matter of fact, there'd probably be a global restriction put in place only allowing people to reproduce once a century. Imagine seeing your great 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 grandchildren when you're around 400 years old. We would act like 20-year-olds until we were 450 and then shove every last bit of live in the last little bit. So not much different, Imo. Was about to say procrastinating to the extreme, lol. Any and every trade-based job, so therefore I don't have to spend a chiz ton of money in order to maintain my home, vehicle, and just be able to rely on my own knowledge on being able to fix things, to be honest. The ultimate handyman edit. Thank you for making this my all-time high karma. I appreciate the support. Also, I know you can do a majority of things today, and I know trades require tools. I also know there is more efficient ways of doing things, but it was just my idea. Loved everyone's responses though. Yeah, I'd want to be like the dad in Swiss Family Robinson. Kids riding ostriches and cheese. Build a crazier tree mansion. If the past 2 months have taught me anything, nothing. If the past 2 months have taught me anything, I'll start a bunch and then abandon them. Though with 500 years maybe I'd pick a few back up. Do we physically age the same, or is it spread out over time? In order for humans to live 500 years they would have to age slower, or else our immune system would be too weak to live that long. Not much would change, probably. If a 500-year lifespan was normal for humans like a 70-ish year lifespan is normal for us, then our lives would just be spread out longer. In a world like that, school would last for like 30 years, you work for centuries, etc. Wasn't Tolkien big on lifespan relativism? Like hobbits had their 20s and humans had their teens as their respective period of life, with much carefree frolicking and troublemaking before they matured. So I think you're right on it. If living so long was the norm, having a hobby for 100 years would be like someone now having a hobby for 10. The burden for becoming a master would elongate, probably. I wonder what would change, based on the circumstance, if its humans have always lived about 500 years, versus this is the first generation of superhumans, who now will likely all live to be 500. Oh. Or, if every 500 years, a certain percentage of the population born were humans that would live to be 500, with the rest having normal lifespans. Edit. Personally, I think about the last option a lot, and I'd love that if it also came with elongated youth and physical well-being. I always feel behind the curve, but as though with a couple more lifetimes I could accomplish so much. I'd love enough time to sail the world drinking beer, then settle down and save a few species from extinction, or grow a few jungles, you know? Although I definitely want there to be others, so that when I'm 300 there are also other people I know who are my age and life isn't just one huge repeating tragedy of watching everyone else die. By 100, virtuoso guitar by 200, piano maestro by 300, drums, baby by 400, ace of base by 500, harmonica blues master Reddit. Some futurists believe that the first person to live to the age of 150 is already alive right now, and the first person who will live to be 1000 years old will be born by 2040. Interesting side note. Now let the Redditing continue. As if humanity will make it past this year. IDK, but my Minecraft base finna be lit. There still won't be vertical slabs. Folding a fitted sheet. 500 years isn't long enough to master the art of fitted sheet folding. It's the rounded corners. They get you every time. Lately I've been working on memorizing every country's name and location on the globe. If I had 500 years, I could try to memorize every city. How's that going? I think I was in 4th grade when we had to memorize all of the South and Central American countries. It was pretty easy. Blank map and a normal one. Write in the names really lightly, erase them and do it again. My SATA doesn't know where all the states are though. Would still procrastinate probably, but you'd be even better at it. So much more practice. Question. Does this affect our reproduction? If so, how? And if not, then overpopulation would be rampant, thus driving our push for interstellar travel and colonization of habitable planets. If the latter, I'd put forth an effort to study geology, engineering, physics and medicine. I'd be an explorer. I'd search whole planets and build a life for those looking to leave an overpopulated Earth. If the former, I'd invest my life in childcare and education, so that I could help raise my kids, grandchildren and great-grandchildren, as well as to teach them, so that they themselves can be a positive influence on the world and the people who they meet. Arim world. Learn every language. Like, even those endangered languages with 2 native speakers. Just try to learn Ithkill now. I spend way too much time thinking about this topic. Cooking, music, architecture, medicine, teaching, writing, but most of all, conversing. Connecting with people through conversation is one of the most meaningful things a person can do, and I want to get better at it. There's not nearly enough time to cram all of this into a lifetime. Oh yeah. And I feel like the pressure of finding and building a career I feel like just won't be there. There would be more emphasis on discovering yourself and a cultural pressure to go on journeys of self-discovery. Whereas that kind of stuff is in our world is seen more as a okay. Do it if you have the funds, but hurry back and get started on your career. How important would money and materialistic goods be in a world where people live that long? I really feel like skills and connections would define people so much more than what they have. Maybe opening and running a vineyard. If I have 500 years, I'm sure I could make that happen before I go, and the only thing I know about it is that wine is good. You can already do that. Tortoising. Having a tortoise as a pet and outlive it. I thought this was super sweet. Cooking. There's no point in being 500 and not knowing how to make a good meal. Parkour would be a hell of a lot of fun to get exceedingly good at. Pushing my physical body to the limits of what's possible with extreme precision. Bring back Shinobi. Drawing. I find it so frustrating that I was never taught the fundamental basics of rendering 3D shapes on a 2D surface, the nitty-gritty of anatomy, rendering light and shadow correctly, and just overall becoming a better artist. It's hard not to be better considering I found myself graduated from college woefully underskilled for the art jobs I wanted. I find myself 5 years out of college a lot better at art than I had been. when I graduated college, but not good enough to get into the industry yet. I hope I get good enough to get a job soon. Any recommendations on where to start? I also wanna get a grasp on perspective drawing, but I'm an absolute beginner. I'd perfect the ones I do. Photography and filmmaking. I'd be able to shoot my age in golf. Probably my taxes. Chess. It's a very intellectual game, and it would be nice to keep my mind sharp after all that time. Not the way my 7-year-old plays it, Tehi. I wouldn't necessarily change what I'm doing, but I'd put a lot more time into mastering everything I can. Carpentry, electrical engineering, programming, electrician, mobile electronics, plumbing, etc. So I'd have a much greater understand of electrical engineering. I'd put more work into carpentry and probably spend time working on construction to gain experience. I get free college through work, so I'd probably obtain multiple master's degrees. Bachelor's of Science in it, Masters of Business Administration, Bachelor's of Science in Electrical Engineering, Masters of Electrical Engineering. I'd take all my knowledge, skills, talents, and dump them into trying to invent new things. A better axe/heating system, probably running on some kind of evaporative cooling process with liquid desiccates. I'd work on better uses for solar and better ways to store solar power. Basically, I'd spend a lot more time tinkering in the garage and experimenting with things, hopefully coming up with solutions to major technological problems. My house would be paid off when I'm still a teen, aging wise, so I'd eventually have a lot of freedom to spend a lot of time on these kinds of problems. Deleted. Modding games, because why not? Because that's what heroes do. Learn guitar so I can be the guitar guy at the party. Think I might drink a Coke and Bacardi. I doubt y'all need long to learn how to play Wonderwall. I actually have thought about this and actively tell people that I wish I was a vampire. I fantasized about living for 300 to 400 years and have a whole life plan backlogged in my brain. First I would go to med school and be a doctor for 100 or 150 years. Then, I would live off my doctor money and go back to college for a 100 years or so and just do everything. History degrees, chemistry PhDs, the works. I would gain a bank of knowledge so vast and wide that I'm able to do whatever I want. Then I would get into politics, rise up the ladder until I either become the US president or die before that. Then, I can implement my knowledge and make extreme changes to the government and make it a much more effective system that doesn't rely on partisanship. I may have to become a dictator in order for any of that to be possible, but it's just a means to an ends. I would also acquire much more land and turn America into a country with large territories all across the globe, just cause. Then as I near the end of my life, I would hire the world's smartest scientists and work with them to create an AI that can run the government in my stead, because you bet your I'm not giving that job to a person. Once my life ends and the AI takes over, it will systemically and subsequently bring down every other government until the entire globe is nothing but red, white, and blue. From there, no one will be oppressed by malicious dictators, no one will starve to death, and corrupt governments will not be able to unjustly steal from their people. And under a perfect AI with complete efficiency and no corrupt or malicious intent, every system of government would theoretically work just fine. So in order to satisfy everybody, different parts of the world will operate under different systems and people can move to whatever place they want depending on which economical system they prefer. Zones both with and without gay marriage will exist in order to satisfy all religious and moral belief systems, so they don't try to overthrow the government. I hope you liked it. But be honest, wouldn't you prefer to live in a society where you could choose between capitalism and socialism? Would you support me in my goal to take over the entire world? The whole become a dictator and take over the world part is counterproductive to your goal of creating a world where people have a choice. Programming, blacksmithing, woodworking. Imagine what life would be like. So cool, right? Like to see all of these people having all of these skills and talents developed over all those years. I would probably try to master cooking in multiple languages. Sleeping. Decades of experience so far, and I still suck at getting to sleep, staying asleep, and waking up rested. I would try and perfect a new language every year. Dumbledore spoke 150 languages, so I'm sure I could make it to 10. Same. Spending 10 years learning languages wouldn't feel like so much if it was out of 500 rather than out of 80 to 100. Anything that didn't involve breaking my hip at 75. The next 400 years would be pretty weak. I wish this was tagged serious, haha, nothing, I'm so lazy. Haha. Scrolling Reddit and doing nothing. Woodworking and maybe the violin. I currently do woodworking projects as a hobby, and in 500 years I can only imagine the advances in the tools we use. I like to think I would be a grandmaster at it, creating art that is admired. I don't currently play the violin, but it's on my goals list. Training my memory palace. Drawing and calligraphy. I would perfect bow and arrow, enough to make Oliver Queen proud. I would actually put effort into learning piano, and maybe bagpipes. Tax evasion. If lockdown is any indication, none. Play D&D. Understanding women. You need 500 years for that. Suicide. Seriously, same. 500 years sounds exhausting. Big nope. A few more years and I may understand my ex-wife. Think how many ex-wives you might have in 500 years. I love Reddit, you guys are all beautiful and so nice. Procrastinating, I can't be bothered to learn it yet. Lays around. Not me, but I'd love to see someone improving their reaction speed, strength and agility. Maybe with 250 years of training, they can become a really great ninja warrior. Speaking another language probably. Actually, scrap that. A bunch of languages, or I'd just probably play Minecraft and game for the rest of my life. Imagine the skill level we could reach in playing musical instruments. Being organized. Wait, scratch that. Everyone knows I'll always have messes everywhere. Not even living for 5 whole centuries can fix that. Procrastinating. Actually being productive. Okay, so for some reason I really like log cabins, so if I just spend a bunch of time making a modern log cabin house, that would be nice. I could also maybe grow my own trees. Languages. Seeing that Apollo 11 happened a half century ago, I think a moon base and Mars colony with a safe means of traveling back and forth would be pretty neat. Warming my body scales well with the age, like my body at 500 is as good as an average 80 to 100 year old, or 250 equivalent to that of a 40 to 50 year old. It probably used a few decades to get good at MASH before the arthritis sets in. Making cake. What stops you now? Storytelling. I'm already fairly good at it, but I could be the best in 500 years. Languages. I'd love to learn and speak at least 2 to 3 dozen languages. 3. Music. Boat building. I would build a ducking boat from the trees I grow, because I would also take up silviculture. If everyone lived to be 500, then the standard for being considered good at something would be far higher than it currently is. I would like to invent something that saves humans time. I would invest my time finding ways to save everyone else time. There is a phenomenal amount of work to be done, and not enough time to get it all done. What if every car in any state, if disrepair could be made to brand new specs? I for one have a motorcycle and at least 2 cars that need full on restoration/restore mods, and I've seen plenty more than that. Am American, would just work. No time for hobbies, need to make corporations richer. I think this quarantine has taught me that, even when I have plenty of free time, all I do is watch TV, play video games, and sleep. Astronomy 100%. I think hobbies involving taking care of the environment would be much more prevalent. If we aged proportional to that time span and didn't just spend 450 years being old, imagine the feats of strength that could happen. 501 kilograms deadlift record now in a world where the average man has 10 years of peak performance. Imagine what could be done from the ages of 18 to like 400. Writing. I'd want to create a rich world like Tolkien did with Middle-earth. In fact, give my 500 years to him to make it even better. I'd pick up a ton of instruments and learn a lot of musician skills such as singing, a great sense of rhythm, rapping, music theory, and be able to improvise. I'd become the most diverse musician with all sorts of albums that can span across all genres: rock, pop, rap, singer-songwriter, punk, electronic, etc. Maybe even dip my toes into country. I'd just try to become a great musician, and I don't have a time limit, so even if I procrastinate I could have a great legacy. Oh my, you watched until the end? That's fucking awesome, dude. Thanks for watching.